Test 1, 2. 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 Test 1, 2.
Good evening and welcome to the Thursday, October 19th, 2023 Scarborough Board of Education Business Meeting. Can we call the attendance, please?
Sure. Mrs. Gammon,
Here.
Mr. Kelleher,
Here.
Ms. Leong,
Here.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Here.
Mr. Mayorino,
Here.
Ms. Harpinian,
Here.
Mr. Peony Huff,
Should be late.
Ms. Leisure.
Here.
And Mr. Shumway.
Here.
Perfect. Would everybody please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, agenda item 4.0 are adjustments to the agenda. I would like to make 2 adjustments just to move the Spotlight Award and the K-8 Strategic Solution and Unified Primary School update down below the new business.
Second. Let a motion there.
Yeah, we actually should motion.
Okay.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Perfect, thank you. All right, so agenda item 5.0 is public comment. Is there anyone wishing to make public comment tonight, either here or online? Okay, seeing none, I will close public comment. So that would make the new 6.0 new business, 6.1 are appointments, and 6.1.1 is the Wentworth Functional Life Skills Teacher.
Okay, Madison York has been nominated to fill this position created by a resignation. Ms. York received her Bachelor of Arts degree in Human Services and Rehabilitation Studies and minored in education from Assumption University. In August, she received her Master's of Education in Special Education with a concentration in Early Intervention from University of Southern Maine. She has worked at the Morrison Center as a case manager and for Child Development Services as an IEP administrator. Ms. York is also an assistant coach for girls lacrosse in Yarmouth.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the Wentworth Functional Life Skills Teacher as presented?
So moved.
Second. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Perfect, it's unanimous. Thank you. Agenda item 6.1.2 is the high school co-curriculars.
This is for Albert McCormick, for class advisor for the freshman class, and Lisa Fariz, unified volleyball coach.
Very good. Do I have a motion to approve the high school co-curriculars as presented?
So moved.
Second. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Perfect, thank you. Agenda item 6.1.3 is the middle school lead teacher.
Yes, and this is for Nicole Marceau.
Perfect. Do I have a motion to approve the middle school lead teacher as presented?
So moved.
Second. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Perfect, thank you. It's unanimous. All right, I'm going to bundle 6.2.1, 6.2.2, and 6.2.3, which is September 14th, 2023 executive session, the September 21st, 2023 workshop meeting, and the September 21st, 2023 business meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Second. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Perfect, thank you. It's unanimous. All right, so the new agenda item 7.0 would be the Spotlight Award. We'll go ahead and turn this over.
Just in time. That's great. All you. Sorry.
All right. And so thank you for Jenna for helping me with this today. We really, I really appreciate everybody coming tonight. So we're really excited to do our first Spotlight of the Year award, and that is for Catherine Newell. I think that, so Amy prepared a statement, but sorry. The person that nominated you is, oh, okay. The slides have been reversed. I apologize. Can you go to the next slide? Oh, Amy Sullivan. All right, so Amy is not in the audience tonight. She was going to try to make it, has a class tonight, but we had quite a few things said about Mrs. Newell. She is, first of all, for anybody who doesn't know, the Eight Corners music teacher, and she does all kinds of really fun things, but also noteworthy is that she received an award this year from the Maine Psychology Association for her work on responsive classroom. And so maybe you'll even tell us what that is a little bit. Would you like to come up?
So it was partly to do with responsive classroom practices. Responsive classroom is a philosophy that comes from the Center for Responsive Schools in Massachusetts. And I was certified in responsive classroom a few years ago. I don't remember how many now, but it's just a very child-centered approach. I would encourage anybody to Google it. There's lots of amazing information out there. And then the other main piece was neurodiversity affirming practices in my classroom, which is really important to me as a neurodivergent adult. So
It's amazing.
yeah.
It's a huge honor.
It's really
The other thing that I know about personally, and that a number of people have talked about, was the project that you did this year with helping identify the proper way to say children's names. So there's a lot of diversity, and not everybody is familiar with how to say every child's name. And so can you tell the rest of the board a little bit about that?
Sure. So I've been trying every year to be helpful with getting pictures together of all students for if we have emergencies, like before the beginning of the year, we'd never have the school photos for the kindergartners. So try to get pictures of them, to get those attendance sheets, like I'm trying to figure out what I want to call that. Not attendance sheet so much, but a picture sheet with the kid's name and their pictures. So if we have a substitute, they know who the kids are. It just makes it a lot easier. And nicer for the kids, for someone to call them by their name and not just, excuse me, you in the purple. So,
Yeah.
and then the other piece that we've noticed is, how when someone is unfamiliar with the pronunciation of a name, that they often pause and may avoid saying the name or may mispronounce the student's name, and that can impact a student's sense of belonging and significance. So I had talked about it. I've done this before for my own classroom purposes. I'll ask all of the students to say their names, their first name and last name, and I record it. And then I take those sound files and I save them for myself. And last year I started sharing them with staff, but this year I've been linking them in that database with all of the students' photos so that teachers can go in there, all staff can go in there and click on a student's name and hear how that student's name is pronounced, so that they can practice it. So they're not practicing it in front of the child, but practicing it outside of the time. And it was really cool to be able to do that and kind of hit the ground running. We were able to do them during those early days, those 2 days we have before school really starts, when we have kids coming in and doing visits. We were able to get all of the new names recorded so that when kids came to their classroom teachers or their specials teachers for the first time, we could greet them by name and say that the right way, which was really, really cool.
That's really awesome. That's amazing. And so Amy, would you want it?
Come on up.
Share the podium.
Yeah.
Did you show any blurb or anything about
Not
what I
yet.
said? Okay.
I was just about to read it.
Okay, well, yeah, you don't need to read it. I can be here to say it. So I was like happy to nominate Catherine because I was so fortunate to work with her in the capacity of the DEI committee, where she volunteered to be one of the chairs. And as one of the chairs, she was basically like the main chair because she got there early every day, coming far from her house, like to here, set up the owl, made sure everything was okay, like made sure that all the technology was set up. And then she would run the whole committee the whole time, just like totally espousing the values of what the committee is about: diversity and equity and inclusion, and really sharing that with the adults that were not only teachers, but also community members and and also students, and just always thinking through that lens that I think Scarborough is really trying to emulate in this district. And so, I really just admired that in her, and I thought that she should be recognized because it was like the volunteer position. And I just thought that, not only that, she also teaches my son. So I'm a little biased in that way because he comes home from her music class and he's like singing these songs and, they're stuck in his head and I think that it's awesome that a kid can be captivated by music because it lives in all of us. And she brings that out in these, young children. And I saw that through my own son. So, I just wanted to nominate her and I'm really glad that she's getting that recognition. So that's it. Oh,
Yeah, and I'll read the little blurb as well, if you don't. if
Oh,
you don't
sure,
mind.
yeah.
That Eight Corners staff sent us that it says Eight Corners is so lucky to have Catherine Newell as our music teachers. She is so creative, talented, and engaging. She connects with every single student in our school and advocates for them passionately. There is no one else who can captivate an entire community community meeting like Catherine. She is so dynamic and has a toolbox of musical experiences to share, and shares generously. We thank Catherine for her tireless efforts in the building and our musical foundations. So thank you. Oh. Let me present you with these.
And raise it up. Beautiful. Yes.
That all works. All the way from the other side is important. Well, I was like, I knew it was gonna be tight. But
Right.
there's more trails there.
Yeah, and I know I think I shared this at a previous, or I know I shared this at a previous board meeting, but I did want to just read a couple of excerpts from Jamie Pratt's president of the Maine Psychological Association of Maine and her letter recognizing Catherine. And the Educator Recognition Program is really recognizing PK through 12 or preschool through 12 educators who demonstrate an exceptional psychologically minded performance and a commitment to advancing positive mental and behavioral health outcomes for Maine's school age population. This is a statewide award that she won. And the mental health professionals nominated educators for this recognition based on three main criteria. I'm not going to read through all the details of them, but building positive relationships, effective integration of academic and social emotional instruction, and leadership and advocacy. So the nomination for Catherine Newell highlighted her commitment to the responsive classroom approach and skillful integration of self-regulation supports within the classroom. Catherine clearly recognizes the ways in which traditional classroom expectations may contribute to difficulties with emotional and behavioral regulation, and she alters the landscape in a way that supports diverse student needs. We appreciate that she teaches her students strategies to manage sensory inputs and self-regulate while simultaneously modeling and destigmatizing these techniques. So MIPA is grateful for Catherine's contributions and proud that she chooses to work in Maine schools. We look forward to recognizing her work at our annual conference on November 3rd, 2023.
All right, are there any comments? Yeah.
Had the pleasure of knowing Mrs. Newell for many years now, and I have worked with her on the DEI committee as well as Ms. Newell teaches my daughter who loves to sing and loves Mrs. Newell's class. So she's a household name. And also in a good way, we do hear the songs also at my house. I know the songs as well and the hand gestures to go along with them because we're a musical family. But having a child who is neurodivergent, it is so important to have someone who's a champion for children in the classroom that really can teach your child in a way that centers them, but also allows them to have positive peer interactions. And it doesn't happen all the time. And when it does, it is truly magical. So thank you.
I will echo what Freyla just said. I have a son who's been around you for a couple of years now, and he's always coming home saying really good things. Never, ever uttered any sort of negativity about you. And I think that's rare because you're obviously very impactful to our children. Hearing everybody speak about you, it just speaks volumes on what you do. So thank you.
I just want to say one last thing. What strikes me always is how creative and thoughtful you are, always thinking about what is, what's going on with this particular situation. And that has helped me as well with my children who have had you as well. So I am really, really grateful for you and so glad that you could come tonight.
And I will just wrap up. I will say thank you so much. I was also the chair of the DEI committee, and I know how much work it is. And it's a huge lift. It's a huge lift for anybody, and especially someone who is volunteering for this job, right? And so everyone up here, I know, has really appreciated the work you've done, and for us and for the whole district, all of the kids, all of the teachers in this district. So we really appreciate you. We're so proud of you, and congratulations. All right. All right. Oh, I forgot to say one thing. I'm going to say one more thing. This is the most favorite thing that we do. For me, this is the most favorite thing we do. And one of the reasons I do think it's so special is because it's pure, it's a peer nomination, right? So it's people around you that look up to you and think that you are doing a spectacular job. And so I don't ever want that to be lost in this program, right? Like, this is not us sitting up here. It is your friend and your colleague. And so that's pretty awesome as well, right? When you think about the impact you have. So it's the kids, it's the people around you, it's your family, it's us, it's everyone. So thank you again very much. All right. Yes, please. Yes.
It'll be a last minute one. So I don't know you. I've never met you, and just this is what I've heard. And I remember you speaking a few weeks back, Jeff. And I just have to say I'm inspired by everything I've heard. And it's just wonderful from what I hear and what you've talked about, just the inclusion that you do for the children and to make them feel comfortable and at home and able to learn. So thank you.
All right. With that, we will move on then to our new agenda item 8.0, which is the K-8 strategic solution and unified primary school update. So before I get into the slides, can we come off the slides just 1 second? I just want to explain where we are, what's been going on, and then I'll read a statement and then we'll go back into the slide deck. So as you know, when this process was started, one of the things that the building steering committee really wanted was 4 entry points to the school. And that was because the purpose of it was in an attempt to send traffic all throughout Scarborough to one place, right? So it's this way to send traffic around so we're not blocking one entrance, so to speak, right? And so that we have this ability to disperse it among the community. One of the other concerns was equitable bus rides across the district. So having the 4 entry points allows for that. And then the third thing that the 4th entrance did is it allows for parents to get to our municipal campus and get to the unified school with relative ease, right? So think about parents that are dropping off at the new school and then needing to go over to another school at the municipal campus. So for all of these reasons, the 4th entry point was incredibly important to the building steering committee. So we pursued it. What we learned was that there was an easement off of Trackview Terrace that was owned by the Downs. The Downs was willing to give it to the town as part of the land deal for free. And so that's really where that building committee focused their attention, is to create this access point through that, using that easement on Trackview Terrace. As you likely know, we received a lot of commentary about that, the fact that we were disrupting homes down Trackview Terrace. And so with all of the feedback in mind, the building committee did go back and take a second look to determine if there was another way we could accomplish the same thing. So we found another route, another alternative to consider. And last Tuesday, so a week, not Tuesday just passed, but a week and a half ago Tuesday, we held a meeting with Sawyer Road residents. And at that meeting, over 250 people were invited. It was Sawyer Road and all of the neighborhoods that had come off of Sawyer Road. It was a very long meeting. And at that meeting, we introduced the slides I'll show you in just a minute, or a version of the slides. And we explained this secondary access point that we found. We did it with the idea that this board here, all 7 of us, have said very frequently that we value transparency and being open with the community and bringing them along through this process. And the town council shares that same goal, is open transparency and bringing the community along. And so we shared this new potential, and we included an extra piece that the town could look at down the road should they decide to do that. And so what has happened since then is that has taken on a life of its own. Jeff, myself, John Anderson, the town council chair, Dana Fortier, the building steering committee chair, and Tom Hall, the town manager, have drafted and issued a statement that I'm going to read right now. Since the site for the K-3 unified school was selected in April of 2023, the intent has always been to create easterly access. A 4th entry point to the school is critical for emergency response times and access. It also helps disperse traffic among the different parts of Scarborough and allows buses, school officials, and other administrative vehicles to move from the main campus to the unified school efficiently. Access via Sawyer Road is the most logical access point given the site's location. It was first shared publicly in May of 2023 when the council authorized a letter of intent with the Downs, highlighting the desire to create easterly access to the school site. As both parties agreed on the need of easterly access, the final option agreement includes the conveyance of a 49-foot right of way adjacent to Trackview Terrace, owned by the Downs at no cost to the town. The town is not limited to this access option and is exploring alternative access points via Sawyer Road to create easterly access. The right-of-way adjacent to Trackview Terrace was considered for the purpose of estimating offsite cost for the November ballot. In recognition that Sawyer Road would most likely be affected by the access route, the building committee was equally interested in estimating the cost to improve Sawyer Road to alleviate some of the existing deficiencies and to better accommodate the traffic to the school site. Of the $160 million on the ballot, $6 million is assumed as offsite improvements for this traffic solution. While this access solution is likely the best alternative, based on feedback from neighbors in the area, the town and the building committee have been exploring alternative access points via Sawyer Road and are evaluating feasibility, cost, and environmental impacts. Our objective is to find the best solution that works for the entire community and takes into consideration the residents most impacted by these new roadways. Very conscientious efforts are underway to minimize impacts on private property and to ensure that no entire properties or homes will be impacted. Despite best efforts to avoid impact on private property, it is expected that the town may need to purchase small strips of land between 5 and 10 feet along the edges of certain properties to build the roadway improvements being contemplated. On 10/10/23, a public meeting was held to share the current options and a new alternative. A total of 250 special invitations were mailed to all residents living on and off Sawyer Road to review the proposed solution. A new alternative for access on Sawyer was shared and socialized at this event on an easement owned by the Scarborough Land Trust off of Sawyer Road. The new alternative access point would require coordination with the Scarborough Land Trust and several private property owners to become viable. To be clear, Access to the school site outside of Sawyer Road is not a part of the current scope of the project. Should the town wish to pursue the future possibility of having a direct connection to Gorham Road, it would be a separate action unrelated to November's vote. The town has until December 31st, 2023 to evaluate both alternatives and finalize a decision on easterly access, and is committed to do this through an open and transparent process before making a final decision. Work that may be conducted prior to December 31st, 2023 on either option would include boundary surveys, wetland mapping, and title surveys to allow refinement of the portions of parcels that may be considered for acquisition. The town will work diligently with affected landowners as this information becomes available. The town is committed to making the very best choice for residents, traffic, and infrastructure needs, and for the school site to function safely and optimally. Any additional costs due to changing the easterly access to a different alternative will need to be absorbed in the 160 million that is being voted on this November. The full cost will be vetted and determined once we complete due diligence and the feasibility review. Any projected adjustments will be value engineered early in the design process to maintain the overall project budget. And again, this was signed by John Anderson, myself, Dana Fortier, Tom Hall, and Jeff Bruno. Okay, so I'm going to take a pause there and ask if there's any questions before I show the slide deck on the statement that we issued. Okay. So now I'll show you the two slides. Okay, so this is the first slide that we showed. So to kind of get your bearings, the road on the very right-hand side all the way over is Gorham Road, running up and down the other way, like up to the screen. Yeah, that one. That's Gorham Road. And then the running underneath where you were before is Sawyer Road. So as you're coming down Sawyer from Gorham, so if you were to come down, let's just pretend you're coming down Gorham and you turn right onto Sawyer, you would, with this potential, you would come to the access road, which is outlined in purple. The entire purple highlight is an access road that is owned by the Scarborough Land Trust. So you would turn right there, and then you would turn left, and this is a road that is contemplated through it'll take you up to Preservation Way. So the neighborhood that you see in the left-hand, the outline of a neighborhood that you see in the left-hand side is a proposed community that is currently not built yet, but the owner of that land has approved plans to build a neighborhood that looks like what you see here. So this would, this new proposed route would go through to Preservation Way and would end up ultimately connecting through the neighborhood to the schools. And so this was an option for something we could pursue. The next slide just shows you the access point. So this is the access point that that the Scarborough Land Trust owns. So everything that is highlighted in purple. So what we have removed from this slide, just to make sure everybody understands, when we presented this on Tuesday night, what we showed was, can you go back one slide, Diane? We showed both of these. So we showed the potential new access. We showed the access roads that are currently in existence. What we added to it was an additional suggested route, and that went from that access road up at the top of the corner where the new Preservation Way would link with the access road all the way to Gorham Road. So if you come down like right there, and then it actually, I think the road was contemplated to move up a little bit and then to go all the way down to Gorham Road. And so the idea behind this was that if the not, again, I want to be very, very clear, the school board was, or the school committee, building committee was not contemplating this access. This is a hard stop. This is not what we are contemplating. They are contemplating what you see on the chart right now. The addition of from the access road to Gorham that used to be on this map was because should the town ever in the future want to pursue this, that is something they could pursue. But that work takes, as you can see, it runs through land, right? So it takes, you'd have to talk to the land trust. There would be impacted homeowners. This would be a pretty big project, quite frankly. So that is not something that we are in a place to do, nor is it something we don't have the money to do that. That is not something we are contemplating, but it is something should the town want to do it down the road, they most certainly would have that option.
And it would be bonded. It would be something that people vote on.
Yes, it would be, yes, because it would be quite significant, yes, in cost, and would be over the town's authority for purchases. So yeah, it would likely be something that, yes, great point, that the community would vote on. Yeah.
Is the proposed road in red, would that be something that the Downs would cover, or is that something we would be paying for out of the bond?
Yeah, that's a good question. This would be something we would cover. It would come, we have money in the bond. When you look through the budgeted funds, there's money in there to improve Sawyer Road and to create this access. So remember when we put the money, when we put the total out and said, this is what it's going to be 160 million. The price contemplated access through Trackview Terrace. So essentially, if we went this route, that money that was available for Trackview Terrace would move here, would shift to this and would create this access.
And the purple road, is not a road that's there, and it is just an access road.
Yeah, it's an access point that the Scarborough Land Trust owns. Yeah. And you can see it kind of goes down below, dips down below, and it dips to the right a little bit. So this is their access over to Warren Woods, over into their land that way. Yeah. So there are two options on the table. This is number one. This would be number two, I should say, the Preservation Way. The number one option is still the Trackview Terrace. So is there any questions on this? Yeah, please, no, ask away. Yeah, this is the time, yeah.
No, because I listened into the meeting, was it the 10th?
Mhm.
So somebody mentioned an idea. I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting. How disruptive would it be if we just had, I think somebody suggested, if there was just that easterly access for emergency purposes where you put a gate and it will just go up for emergency vehicles. How disruptive and clogging would it be to the other access points if we didn't have the easterly?
So I
Point.
think it's interesting you asked that, because we had a question and answer session this Tuesday, so just a few days ago. And so one of the homeowners that is on Trackview Terrace was there. And so this was actually a conversation we had with her. So part of like when you pull back the layers of the onion, right, and you're looking at why do we need this? One of the big reasons is the easterly part of Scarborough. So if you think about Black Point Road, for example, Black Point Road on a good day is already backed up, right? And so there's been attempts to help mitigate that with adaptive lights that have gone in and things like that. But you can, like when you sit down there, you might be down there for a few light cycles before you can turn left or go straight, right? It's difficult. So if you think about now, if we didn't have this easterly access, if we just went with the three other access points, so the three others are Route 1, Haggis, and Payne. So like think Costco, the Haggis is being created now, and Route 1 is driving through where the down sign is. Everybody who comes down Black Point now would have to turn left, go down Route 1 and choose one of those sites. So what we would do is effectively back up Black Point even more, right? And make it more difficult for people to travel. And then of course, there's the rest of the east side of Scarborough beyond Black Point too. So what we did talk about Tuesday and what Lisa is looking at with Al is, and if we did this, again, this is just a thought, it would not be this road, it would be back to Trackview Terrace. There was a question, what if we made it for emergency access only? Well, that wouldn't help our disbursement issue. But we said, okay, what if it was accessed just during school hours? So just parents could get to it and buses could get to it, drop off kids, and then there was some mechanism to close it off for the rest of the time. Because the Trackview Terrace folks, what their concern is the traffic that would come through their quiet street right now. So That is something that the homeowner in attendance seemed to at least be interested to entertain and would be willing to talk about it. It is something we can consider. We have again until December, the town has until December 31st to decide between the 2 points. Part of the work they are doing right now is the attorney is going through all of the transactions that have ever occurred on Trackview Terrace. It's a deed search. And so you're going through all of those to determine who owns what, where, when, how. And so it's a pretty big undertaking. And so those answers should be out soon. And so that will really help to, I think, help the town to determine which is the best alternative here. No, I had no idea. No, and you're speaking to the person that is is terrible with geography. I've always been terrible with geography and looking at maps and pictures and yes, no, I never envisioned I would be doing this type of work. Oh, boy. Yeah, you're gonna get me. Yes, it's down over here.
Over
Yes,
here.
yes.
Okay. Right.
Yes. I think that, yeah, is that it? Like right about there where Diane's
Yeah.
pointer is?
Down a little bit, yep.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
down just beyond that curve.
Yeah. Yeah, and so part of Sawyer, what's ended up happening, the Sawyer residents, their concern is the traffic that now uses Sawyer as a cut through to avoid Route 1, right? And so that's what we're trying, that's where the traffic improvements would really help that street out. Yeah, kind of slow people down on that path.
If I could just chime that,
Would you say that? Yeah, the speed tables, yeah, and stop signs.
Right.
and-
that's what I was gonna say. Some of those elements were discussed at the recent forum too, which I thought was good because we had feedback there too, where, sidewalks, it sounds like from the feedback that we had from this one neighbor who has gone door to door, the one neighbor who lives on Trackview, she's gone door to door, her and her husband. And, people are thrilled about the idea of sidewalks. It seems like is the general consensus because it's not the safest road and there are a ton of family homes throughout that area and people who just walk in general might want to get over to the campus to Memorial Park and whatnot. Some of the feedback we heard is that do the sidewalks have to be 8 feet wide? Because they're, it's something that's a little more modern, but it's not required. And so that's something that Dana had asked the question of, hey, if that was smaller, do you think that would help? Because some people are concerned that this plan might take up a little bit too much of their land. And so there's things like that, which I think it's good feedback for us to have and for us to go back and revisit. Obviously, we're at the 11th hour here. So doing some of that is a challenge, in order to win people's votes over, I feel like, but I think it's important from a sense of transparency that people understand that we're not done still trying to be a good neighbor. I mean, that's one of the big things that I had, brought up during the meeting is, if I lived where they live, I understand their concern and we all expressed that. Us doing the work and everybody on the building committee, we see what's happening behind the scenes. We understand the compassion and the way that we talk about things, but I understand how things can be perceived outside. And we had a good conversation about that too, where this particular neighbor who was in attendance and her husband gave us good feedback as to how the way we might word things sometimes are perceived. And, we all know, we tell this to our kids, right? That perception is everything. And so we're not going to be perfect, but I think it's important that, again, we have this conversation in the public. We continue to have these forums and we let people know that, hey, even if this is a yes vote, which we hope that it is, it doesn't mean we're not going to continue to work with you. As much as, we'd like to win them over before the actual vote, it does seem like a challenge to do that from some of the feedback that we heard the other night.
Yeah, and that's a great point. The 8-foot sidewalks, the reason for the expansion. And I think once we were able to explain this, I think it landed better, right? People understood it a little bit better. But the reason for a wider sidewalk is that then you can have somebody who's on a bike and someone walking at the same time, right? And so when we were able to explain that, one of the homeowners was like, oh, I see, that makes sense, because on the I guess there's places where there's not sidewalks and there are some, and on the places where there are sidewalks, they're very small. And so she was out walking with a stroller and somebody came by with a bike and it's so skinny, they're so narrow, you cannot pass by. And so the bike rider actually fell in the street, right? Like trying to pass each other. And so that's the purpose of having an 8-foot sidewalk, is so you can do both at the same time. So really, like when you're talking about encouraging walking for students to come to the school and encouraging families to perhaps not drive and walk when they can, like this is one of those avenues, those mechanisms to do so.
I think part of the challenge is also that we can't have every answer because there has to be some other work that's done after a referendum, and that's
Mhm.
hard to explain to people. Right, it's so we can't have every detail. I mean, there's some big details that we need to have, but the width of the sidewalks and stuff like that, that's all stuff that has to be studied and
Mhm.
after. That's just the proposed or what we would like to
Yeah.
see happen, really, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the proposed plan and the budget is based on that. So that, again, to encourage like the multi-use of the sidewalk.
Yeah, they work on 114.
Mhm.
They're great.
Yeah. All right, so are there any questions on this? Okay, and I wanna, we can come off the slides now. I just want to address one more, thank you, Diane. One more thing that has come up and has caused some confusion. So when the ballot was made, if you remember that the town council voted on the ballot to put this to referendum in August, so we are now in October, right? At the time in August, the language on the ballot discussed a tax impact. So there's very specific things that have to be included in the language, and that's what the referendum would cost. That's what the interest would cost, a total project cost with both, and then what that impact looks like to a taxpayer. At that time, let me back up. There are 3 ways to measure the tax impact of a big project. One is what % of my tax bill is going to go towards this bond, or what is the dollar amount of my tax bill that'll go for this bond. Measurement 2 is we know that the town has a goal of a no more than 3% or roughly 3% tax increase every year. So what does having $160 million on the books, what does that do to that percentage? So that's measurement number 2. Measurement number 3 is the one where I felt the town really cared about, and that is bottom line, what does this mean to my checkbook? What does this mean to my pocketbook? What does this mean to my budget? What am I paying, right? So when we started, we were focused on that measurement 1 and measurement 2. So that how much of my tax bill is going to pay for this? That is the language that is on the ballot. So it says, I believe it says $488. That is the language that is on the ballot. That is what our original tax impact document said. That is what our original slide deck said. That is what we were going out with. What we found and what we heard through feedback is, I'm not sure that number resonates with me. I don't know, like, what does that actually mean, right? Does that mean I'm paying $488 for this? And the answer is no. So what we did was we updated all of our documents to reflect what is the bottom line impact to me? And when you look at it that way, it is for a $400,000 assessed home, it's about $200. So it equates to about $50 for every $100,000 of assessed value. So when we changed the tax document and the ballot came out, now our language was not the same, was not consistent across our materials and the ballot's materials. And so there has been a little bit of confusion, and I think in full transparency, I'll say questioning of our honesty when it comes to the numbers. And it's not that one number's right and then we oops, surprised you with a higher number. That's not it. We just changed what we were showing people, what impact we were showing. So we have done another update to our tax document. And now all 3 impacts are listed. So now, however you want to see the tax impact, you can view the document and you can see the impact to suit your specific needs and your specific requirements. And as always, The financial model that we use to demonstrate this impact is on the town council's website. Anybody is welcome at any time to go in and mess around in there. You can change things without, it's not like it's going to detonate and mess up the whole town's website, right? It's something you can save to your computer. You can change your home value. You can put in specifically what you want, and you can see what numbers come from there.
And we used $400,000 because that is the town's average assessed value of a home,
Yes.
not the average sale price.
Yes, yes. So that's a great point, Jillian, and something we were asked a lot. Well, where can you find a $400,000 home in Scarborough? Well, likely you can't, right? But the assessed value and the sale value are two very different things, right? So assessed value is what your taxes are based on. The sale value is what you can get for selling your home. And I think it's 427,000 is the average for Scarborough. Yeah. Thank you. All right, so is there any other questions about the school project, where we are, what we're doing? We're about, I think, 2 weeks out now. I know. It's on November. 3 weeks. Oh, I guess this was 3 weeks, a little less than 3 weeks. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. We're almost there. We're almost there. All right. If there are no other questions, I'm going to go to agenda item 9.0, which is adjournment. Do I have a motion? Say it again. We don't have committee slides today. Did you include a slide for us today? We are so. You want to save it for next time? Yeah, we do those every other week, but we are all looking forward to seeing your slide next week. It looks lovely. Yes. I feel like I recognize a familiar face in one of those photos. All right, so agenda item 9.0 is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Perfect, thank you. Have a great evening.